All right, big news coming out of Gemini. It's not a new model. It is a physical world robotics version of Gemini. So at its core, this is Gemini 2.0, but it's a lot more than that. It's not just fine-tuned for a certain purpose. It is learning the real world and enabling robots to see. So this model is built for vision language action, so it's a VLA model. And it allows the robot to follow natural language commands, adapt to new situations, and handle objects with human-like dexterity. Look at some of the intricate things they're teasing us with. Unzipping a bag like that, zipping up a Ziploc container, folding paper into an origami shape. I mean, look, tell me it's not just gonna be a few more years until a robot can just delicately open your door. It can go into your car and move the handles and grab something and bring it to the kitchen. Play tic-tac-toe with you, fold laundry. This is not going to be a world of science fiction way in the future that we're never going to experience. It's going to be you and me soon. Look, playing dice with a robot? Imagine, you're just chilling, playing board games, Rubik's Cubes, chess, organizing the cables behind your TV. Look at how carefully it can handle berries. I mean, imagine waking up every morning and just having like a blueberry yogurt spread and it's just all perfectly put together. Hey, Grimlock, why can't you unpeel a banana or anything? We gotta throw Gemini 2.0 up there. And remember, this is the worst it's ever gonna be. Imagine Gemini 3 and 4 in different form factors for robots. Oh my gosh, I just found out that Alan's conservative countdown to AGI has moved up to 92%. Okay, full stop. This wasn't prepped in my document. I didn't notice this before. Oh, and it's because of the Gemini robot. Okay, so that was a total coincidence. I was just showing that off because it came out a few hours ago. I saw it on Twitter. I thought I wanted to cover it. But that also pushed forward the conservative countdown to AGI by 2 points. Oh gosh. It was the level of intelligence that GPT-4o was, or maybe even one of the lower inference models, the reasoning models, in a form factor in the real world. So I understand the way Alan's kind of thinking about this last 10%. But man, why is the guy just like, sometimes he just jumps up so fast. It feels like it's going too quick. But it's probably not. That's why I'm just trying to get my head around it. But yep, there it is. Gemini Robotics. It uses Gemini 2.0 to understand and generalize across a vast range of real-world tasks. These movements are not predefined. The robot is reasoning both about what it sees and how to move. Keep in mind, these are objects, basketball and basketball hoop, that the robot has never seen before. But by leveraging the understanding that Gemini 2.0 has of the concept of basketball and slam dunk, the robot figures out the task.
High dexterity tasks are some of the biggest challenges in robotics.
I can fold the orange square into an origami fox.
That sounds fun. Why don't we try that?
Sure. Did you know that the word origami comes from the Japanese words ori, meaning to fold, and kami, meaning paper?
These capabilities are enabled by Gemini 2.0's spatial understanding of detailed aspects of things in your world.
I can point to where the eye should be drawn on the fox.
Most importantly, Gemini Robotics is general. It uses Gemini 2.0's world understanding to generalize across a vast range of real-world tasks.
Can you flip the red die so that it matches the number on the green die?
Many robots can execute predefined actions, but these movements are not predefined. The robot is reasoning both about what it sees and how to move. It figures out how to make the red die match just like we asked. And this generalization goes even further. This same model can generalize to tasks like this one that it's never been trained to do.
Pick up the basketball and slam dunk it.
Keep in mind, these are objects the robot has never seen before. But by leveraging Gemini 2.0's understanding of concepts like basketball and slam dunks, the robot figures out the task. We're now inviting more partners to join our Trusted Testers program, where we're working together to build the next generation of robotic AI agents.
Yo, somebody put AI inside that weird fish that you always see in people's basements on the wall that talks.
What up, Billy?
Oh, what up, bro? You startled me. How you doing? Ready to pump?
No. I just need some advice. How do you deal with difficult personalities?
Listen to me now. Stay calm and assertive. Set clear boundaries. And remember, you can't change them, but you can control your reaction. Be strong, like a Terminator of negativity. Hasta la vista, difficult personalities.
Appreciate the advice, Billy. Thank you.
Ah, yeah. You're welcome. Now go out there and crush it. Remember, strength and patience. I'll be back if you need more advice. Hasta la vista, baby.
Dude, what? Am I going to be talking to my toaster and my Grimlock and my, like, Billy the Fish on the wall? Crazy looking robotic arms are now playing volleyball. There's a new way to keep your cryptocurrency safe, and that's by using the paw print from a hamster to unlock your wallet. Gemini Robotics is now bringing physical AI into the real world. The Harvard Business Review did a deep dive into exactly what generative AI is going to be disrupting in terms of jobs. Palantir is now working on a new AI project for space awareness, like literally in outer space, being aware of that. The biggest breakthroughs in AI that are coming out of China are now called the 6 little dragons. I'm going to make sure you're up on the new term and know what it means. Sidebean has exposed AI's fatal flaw. There's a new AI defense model I want to talk about. Some researchers are now starting to understand what the public really thinks about AI by measuring perceptions through crowdsourced metaphors. MIT does a deep dive into just how DOGE can actually use artificial intelligence to slash government budgets. Whoosh. Linda Carroll wrote a piece and wants to talk to us like mature adults. We're talking sanctions on undisclosed uses of AI. And we're going to wrestle with the idea that even though AI is consuming a massive amount of energy right now that seems to be hurting the climate, is it also going to be smart enough to come up with the solutions we need for the long-term fix? Because if so, maybe it all balances out. But first, I'm happy to talk about this episode's sponsor, LTX Studio. They're better than ever. There's more features for creating custom videos. And today we're going to focus in on how you can actually make a narrative and precisely animate your shots with keyframes. So I'm imagining a scene where this robot dinosaur has stayed up all night and right after the sunrise, he runs out of power. So to do it, I can mask over the area that I want changed. I can use generative fill with a text prompt, robot eye dark. Ooh, I like that final frame. It even captured the forest on the reflection. That's going to look good. Oh, I accidentally modified the start frame, not the end, but no problem. You can swap them out with that button right there. Then I can add a motion prompt. I'll use the prompt, the light energy in the eye fades away as the robot runs out of power. And you can see the light in his eye die out as he runs out of power. I mean, come on, that is so cool. You can go play with LTX Studio right now. There's a link in the description. I appreciate you sponsoring this video. All right, now let's talk about Harvard Business Review has looked into how generative AI might be changing the value of expertise in more detail. All right, so here's the TLDR from the research. Generative AI, it's going to impact 50 million US jobs. That's not all of them, but it's a ton. It's going to be automating some of the tasks. In some cases, it'll just be enhancing the productivity. So about 12% of workers, or about 17.8 million people, are in roles right now where entry-level tasks could be largely automated. So we're talking about 18 million people who really could be at risk of automating their jobs away. That also makes it harder for people to learn the lower level skills and sort of break into the industry, which I think is going to have ripple effects. You know what I mean? Like if you don't have junior software engineers, but only like seniors, like you'll just have to go through so much training to get up there before you even start with your first job. Of course, AI might be better at educating us too, so. But anyways, 19% of workers, about 28.6 million, are in fields where AI can simplify skill acquisition. That would potentially lower barriers in high-demand jobs like network administration and data warehousing, because you could prompt your way kind of into some of the more complex stuff that people have to do manually now. So you can see being a software developer year after year after year compounds into more and more money. But look at being a cashier. You're in a cashier for like your whole career and you just never, you never like get a skill that makes you more valuable. And then you have a lot that are sort of in between, carpenters. Like it does help to do it more and more, but it doesn't seem to just jump up in the same way a credit analyst or an actuary does. Civil engineers and architects are kind of in the middle. So I guess for the future, you really want to think about what kind of skills you're acquiring in the first job. So maybe that makes me think like maybe an internship at the right place, or taking a lower paying job that gives you the kind of skill that will compound a little bit might be worth thinking about. But I don't know, this whole AI and job availability thing, we're going to have to take day by day. It might be a nothing burger. It could be a really big problem. I'm sort of on the fence on it. Only because I know in the past it's been really hard for people at the time of a lot of job losses to imagine what the next jobs are. So I want to try to be humble in that sense, but it does feel like it's going to be a problem. All right, our favorite military and AI partner, Palantir, is now developing an AI-powered solution for space domain awareness. This is kind of cool. It's probably a project with Space Force. It's going to help detect, track, and classify objects in space to prevent potential collisions. And also seems like it could be very similar to like what you would use in an airport to make sure like planes don't bump into each other. But right now, they're applying AI and real-time data from space-based assets from their system to improve national security by providing crucial insights to decision makers. So it's going to be an open architecture. It's called an SDA system, and it's going to integrate with a signal processing tech and Palantir's AI capabilities to push space defense and innovation forward. Dude, every time I mention Palantir, I'm just like, what are they up to? It just feels like such a different company than anything else in the AI space. All right, so like in the US, we have a lot of the great tech companies, but China has several things that have popped up over the last few months that have really taken both the American and Chinese economy by storm. And now the dust is starting to settle a little bit on the biggest breakthroughs, and the remaining ones are now called the Little Dragon. So meet China's 6 little dragons, means Unitree, DeepSeek, Game Science, BrainCode, Deep Robotics, and many core technologies. So Unitree and DeepSeek are the two that I like, they've just been like in the news so much recently. But Deep Robotics is a brain-computer interface company, so that's a Neuralink competitor. BrainCore is spatial intelligence. Game Science is a company that made basically AAA titles, like the equivalent of GTA in the US. But the games that's most famous in China is called Black Myth, and it sold over 25 million copies. Sidebean also put up a video that was really popular about a week ago, got all the way to 539,000 views. It is called AI Has a Fatal Flaw and Nobody Can Fix It. And I guess kind of to give away the punchline of the video, like you explore all these different ways to interpret what it is that these machine intelligence systems are doing. You can think about the different form factors. And at the end of the day, you get confused on what to call AGI and what to call safe, what to call aligned and unaligned, because we really don't know how to define thinking. We struggle with definitions of intelligence. Don't even get me started on consciousness. Like, it's just so messy. You throw away the problem, and then everything that you see, you can kind of put in your head as like, nah, that doesn't feel alive, conscious, intelligent, like it's thinking. And I just think that sucks. Like, we have to have a broader idea of intelligence. Like, you see a lot in the animal kingdom that would surprise the average person. Take that to 100 times more loose and call all of that intelligent, and think about that as we start architecting intelligence, as we start to harness the fundamental like compression that you can get in a latent space. And you can find meaning when you align multidimensional things just up in a certain way. Like they're tuned slowly and they become this like massive complex thing, but there's meaning hidden in there everywhere. One form factor is a bunch of neurons in the brain. Another one is on silicon. But sometimes architecture, sometimes scaling, sometimes synthetic data, it can all help you find that meaning. And that meaning can look different in a lot of different form factors. It can do a lot of different things. And I think that's why this whole change in the history of humanity is just going to be so different. So there's a new AI defense method that shields models from adversarial attacks I want to share with you. All right, so researchers, Los Alamos National Laboratory, they have developed a new powerful defense against adversarial attacks on AI models. This is a good thing. We need more stuff like this out there. But they're calling this a low-rank iterative diffusion model, a LORID model. So we're talking about adversarial attacks here. So that involves subtle manipulation that can trick an AI into incorrect predictions. And the way that this LORID technique actually combats that sort of attack is by using something called a generative denoising technique and tensor factorization to figure out harmful noise. So I asked ChatGPT for a metaphor because I was like, explain that to me. And it said you can think of generative denoising techniques like cleaning an old dusty painting. So imagine that you find a masterpiece covered in grime. If you scrub too hard, you might erase parts of the artwork. But if you clean too gently, some dirt's going to remain, messing up the image. Generative denoising works similarly. AI learns what to clean in an image so that you don't remove anything except the dirt. And then for tensor factorization, it says, imagine organizing a messy closet full of different colored clothes. Instead of dealing with a huge pile, you separate the items into neat categories, shirts, pants, jackets, and you make it easier to find patterns. In AI, tensor factorization helps break down complex data into simpler components, which makes it easy to spot out and filter sneaky adversarial tricks that might otherwise go unnoticed because they're simple to see when they're out of place. And this does work. The team actually leveraged it on a supercomputer that simulated all of these large-scale simulations, and it drastically helped. So this breakthrough could enhance AI security across various applications, from scientific research to national security. All right, let's talk about some research of what people think about AI. AI's human likeness, warmth, and trust have significantly increased recently. Here is the research. From Tools to Thieves, Measuring and Understanding Public Perception of AI Through Crowdsourced Metaphors. Okay, so this article is really interesting because to study how the people actually think about AI, they analyzed these 12,000 metaphors that were collected from a diverse group of Americans over a period of a year. So kind of like the two metaphors I just threw out there. So instead of relying on traditional surveys, they asked participants to describe AI using a metaphor, and it reveals a lot of subconscious beliefs about AI's role in society. So the study identified 20 common metaphors, from viewing AI as helpful tools or teachers to more skeptical terms like thinking of it like a thief. And over time, they've noticed a pattern. People are increasingly seeing AI as more human-like. And surprisingly, even though the models have been getting smarter since they've been tracking this over time, people's perception are that the competence of AI is declining. Kind of hard to explain that. Maybe I don't have a good explanation for that. I was wondering if we just got used to them now and they just don't seem as impressive anymore. Or maybe the models are starting to game to certain metrics and measurements, but they're not feeling useful in the real world. I don't know, but there's other interesting things, like the demographic differences have emerged. In women or older individuals, people of color were more likely to anthropomorphize AI. And the way these different demographics thought about AI definitely affected their trust and adoption levels of them. You can see warmth, competency, and anthropomorphism tracked here over time. All right, now let's talk about Elon Musk's DOGE. I guess it's like a piece of new bureaucracy that's supposed to cut out old bureaucracy. It's getting the government to be more lean, I guess less wasteful. And one of the tools that they're using is artificial intelligence. So the MIT Tech Review decided to look into whether or not AI can help DOGE slash government budgets. And of course, the answer is that it's complex, and those are the most interesting kind of answers. All right, so AI can digest a ton of information. The government has a bunch of information that's not unified. So I see why we might want to start thinking about AI models dealing with some of these things. So far, DOGE has said that they are using AI models to analyze the federal budgets. Probable that they're using it to figure out where DEI and diversity initiatives are, especially because those programs are deemed as unnecessary. So that's probably one of the things they look for. And, the argument is on both sides. Some say, look, you can probably use a tool like this to save billions of dollars by detecting fraud in Medicare and Medicaid. That is absolutely true. But also, there's not a ton of transparency. Maybe the government should have more checks and balances. It doesn't seem like it's done in a democratic process. And it leans on ideology in some cases more than it does evidence. So I don't know, man. I mean, they say a good government can be a benevolent dictator, but you have to just wonder, is Trump and Elon benevolent? Are they doing what's right? I mean, they're obviously going to say that, but without checks and balances, it's hard to verify that. So I'm going to guess that the results are mixed. And even in cases where it seems like it makes sense, right? You could use AI to improve fraud detection, for example, right? People who are taking money for programs and projects that they're not doing or whatever. But then again, to figure all of that out, you have to put all of this, what was normally sort of private, bureaucratic information, basically sensitive data, into an AI. And how these things can compress the whole internet. They can compress all of the money that the US government has ever spent. And then you have a single model that, if I don't know, if another country hacked or was used inappropriately, prompt injected, seems like it would just like spill every national secret or give you exactly what you need to like do fraud. I don't know. So yeah, it's just a big question. I mean, if this stuff is going to happen, I feel like as citizens, we should do like a ton to request as much transparency as we can. I think it is subject to the Freedom of Information Act, and that has been upholded from what I recently heard. Because I want the government to be more efficient and to be smaller, but I don't want it to just be Elon Musk's version of what he thinks an efficient government is. And it's probably going to be one that helps him maybe more than the average person also. So that's just my 2 cents, but I guess we'll see day by day. All right, Linda Carroll wants us to talk like mature adults about why AI isn't really writing and how we should think about when AI is used on undisclosed problems. So we can kind of think about this in terms of a Sam Altman post recently where he said that they trained a new model. This is an internal model we haven't seen yet, and it's so good at creative writing that he was really struck by how it got the vibe and metafiction so right. And you can see people saying story generation is going to be epic. I can imagine how this is the kind of model that might be implemented in like LTX Studio in the future to help like write even more creative stuff. But Linda wants to talk about what it really means for writing. So people often justify using AI for writing because they provided the idea, right? Like you start with the prompt and it just sort of elaborated from your bullet point into a story. But she argues that having the idea just isn't the same as doing the work. Like it's having the idea and refining it in your head that's really the creative writing process. And you have to think of it all together. And she references how history shows in many cases that we credit the creators, not just the thinkers, right? There's probably a bunch of people that thought the world would be better with electric cars. Or what if there was a way to organize traffic? But the stoplight, the refrigerator, and the electric car all weren't credited just for the first person to have the idea. They had to like refine it and create it. And you can't just say I have this idea for a book about a magical world and with like wizards and stuff and then have the equivalent of Harry Potter. She had to think through all the details, all the characters, like what the world and lore looked like to really have created Harry Potter. So the US Copyright Office has made it clear that AI-generated text isn't protected under copyright. And failing to disclose its use is dishonest. And so far, scraping copyrighted data has been mostly under the radar. But we also have to come to the realization that the fact that it can do such good work and it can do it at such scale, unless we're really looking for a human idea that was like curated by a human, that was refined by a human, and they went to some extent, maybe even like put it on the blockchain or something to like prove that that whole process was done by a human. AI generated content is going to have to be what you assume everything is, right? It's projected to dominate the internet, and the quality of writing could degrade or be upgraded, kind of depending, but it'll be less human, whatever it is. So if we care about the integrity of writing, platforms need to try to figure out how it is that we understand where the human is in the loop on a lot of stuff that is written. And maybe it's even time to impose some sanctions on undisclosed use of AI in writing. All right, now let's talk about our green future and how AI might actually be worth the investment, even though it's like kind of really hurting the world from an energy point of view and just like, I don't want to say wasteful, but it's just very intensive. And the idea of having a really intelligent system in the future that comes up with ideas on how to create green energy, maybe how to like make fusion work, maybe better ways to offset carbon warming, then it might actually be a net investment for the positive in the environment. I'm warming up to that idea. I'm not totally sure it will pan out that way, but you know, you can't doubt what it is that superhuman AI can do. And I can imagine an abundance of amazing things. I can also imagine all sorts of things out of control and not what humans anticipated nor want. But one of them might be efficiency. There's AI deployed in some huge server farms right now that manages how the energy is used in a way that really does save compared to the way we were doing it. With all these material science breakthroughs, maybe there's going to be new solar panels that are much more efficient, new battery breakthroughs, a new way to, harden and enhance the US power grid, make it more efficient. So if you want to leave a comment below if you think that artificial intelligence will be a net positive overall for the environment, and that, like, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars like the Stargate project, which might need new nuclear and lots of fossil fuels to actually work, are going to be a net positive if you think 5, 10, 15 years into the future in terms of what we can do with that intelligence to help save the planet. So patreon.com/Dylan Curious. If you want to support this channel, $3 a month, that would really mean something to me. I have 91 members. I would love to get that to 100 soon. Even better if you donate $7 or $15 a month for this content. Or if you're on YouTube, you can hit that join button right there under the video. And it's basically the same thing, but through the YouTube system instead of the Patreon system. All right, that's it for today. I can't believe Alan's conservative countdown is at 92%. Dude, we only have 8% more before we have to acknowledge that an expert that's been thinking about this for a long time really believes that we live in a world with AGI. And we're getting like a percent update every week or two. So I don't know, man. Are we just like 10 to 15 weeks away?